You've been fed the wrong playbook since you were a kid. Be nice, be patient, explain yourself, wait your turn. Meanwhile, someone not half as capable as you is out there living the life you told yourself was unrealistic. They're getting the callbacks. They're setting the terms. They're building the empire while you scroll at 2 a.m. and a.m. Heartbeat heavy. Wondering the same thing you've asked 1,000 times. When is it my turn? I asked that too. I watched people with mediocre talent glide past, collecting chances like they had a cheat code. I kept pitching, proving, pleading, performing for people who couldn't spot real potential if it sat on their desk with a name tag. The anger that builds when you finally see the game? I felt that. It's the moment you notice that the rules you kept honoring were written to keep you small. Here's the switch that flips everything. The game isn't fixed against you. You were simply never taught the mechanics of power. While you polished your likability, other people were studying leverage. While you mastered politeness, they mastered presence. While you practiced modesty, they practiced influence. And underneath all the motivational slogans and glossy "believe in yourself" posters, there are a few brutal, practical truths that determine who commands rooms and who fades into the wallpaper. Starting today, you stop asking. You stop waiting. You stop treating your life like a group project where everyone else gets a vote. After this, permission becomes a word other people still use. Yours is choice. Here's the first cut. You will feel it because I did. Your mouth is your enemy. I learned this at 23, sitting in a meeting where everyone made in a month what I made in a year. I showed up hungry, eager, and loud. Every pause sounded like danger, so I filled it. Every silence felt like a test, so I performed. I confused talking with value. I equated volume with credibility. Across the table sat the actual center of gravity in that room. He spoke maybe 10 words the entire hour, but the air changed when he did. People angled their chairs toward him without noticing. When he asked a question, it wasn't a volley, it was a scalpel. And when he chose not to speak, something fascinating happened. Everyone else started over-explaining, over-promising, and overexposing their blind spots. That's when it clicked. Words are currency, and carelessness is expensive. Every sentence you throw into the air tells people how to negotiate with you. Every impulsive explanation advertises soft spots. Every attempt to smooth over awkwardness teaches the room that their comfort ranks above your authority. Silence, on the other hand, is not empty. It is heavy. It invites projection. And most people will project fear, uncertainty, and the desire for your approval right into that quiet. Stand in a pause without flinching and watch what happens. People start selling themselves. They reveal the angles they're afraid you'll see. They tell you how to win the deal without realizing they're doing it. They try harder to impress you because you haven't auditioned for them. They lean forward because you aren't leaning in. That's power. Not the dramatic chest-thumping kind. The kind that shifts the energy of a room by presence, not noise. When you speak less, you learn more. While others narrate their thinking out loud, you gather intelligence. While they fight for airtime, you decide whether the conversation is even worth contributing to. While they scramble to fill silence, you practice restraint. That restraint is the foundation of respect. Try this in your next meeting or conversation. Answer last. Let the flood of opinions surge past you. Let the contradictions surface. Let the anxieties reveal themselves. And when you do speak, make it clean and short. Ask a single clarifying question that cuts to incentives, numbers, or consequences. Or say, I'm going to sit with this and circle back with a plan. You will feel the power shift instantly because you just signaled you're not here to perform for approval. You're here to steer outcomes. There's a reason the most effective people you know aren't constantly narrating their process. Mystery multiplies perceived value. Scarcity raises the price. If people always know what you're thinking, you've given them a manual. If they're never sure, they treat your attention like a limited resource. And limited resources are respected. This isn't about playing mute. It's about recalibrating the ratio between what you observe and what you reveal. It's about replacing compulsive commentary with intentional communication. It's about breaking the habit of rushing to make others comfortable and building the discipline to make the room earn your words. But let's talk about the discomfort, because it will come. Silence will itch at first. You'll feel the urge to jump in and smooth things over. You'll want to show you're a team player, that you get it, that you're contributing. Resist. Contribution isn't measured in decibels. It's measured in leverage. One strategic sentence beats 10 minutes of nervous filler. One precise question can save an entire project. One decision stated without apology can anchor an entire team. Here's a practice that changes your posture quickly. Before you enter a room, decide the 3 outcomes that matter for you. Not for the group, not for optics, for you. Tie each to a decision, a number, or a next step. During the conversation, listen for leverage points. Who cares most? Who controls resources? Where timelines are loose? Where accountability is fuzzy? Write these down. Speak only when you can alter the path toward your outcomes. If what you're about to say doesn't move the needle, don't say it. If a pause appears, let it breathe. Let other people show their cards. End with a crisp anchor. Here's what I'll deliver, by when, and what I need from you. Then stop talking. Watch what happens in the first 30 days. People start seeking your opinion rather than dodging it. They follow up with you because your words create decisions, not debates. You become the person who calibrates, not the person who chases consensus. And the quieter you become, the more precisely you notice the gaps, the power dynamics, the unstated agendas. Everything normal chatter camouflages. There's a famous idea about appearance versus reality. Most people see what you seem to be. Very few get access to who you actually are. Your silence turns that into an asset. It creates an outline others have to color in themselves, and they usually color it with respect. Not because you demanded it, but because you designed the environment that makes it the natural response. A final note before we move on. The point isn't to become aloof or theatrical. Performative silence is just another costume. The point is to reclaim authorship over your signal-to-noise ratio. You're not withholding to manipulate. You're conserving to concentrate force. You are training yourself to value your attention and your words so highly that you refuse to spend them on anything that doesn't compound. From now on, treat speech like a tool, not a reflex. Use it to set terms. Use it to clarify stakes. Use it to establish boundaries. Use it to name the next action in the room. And the rest of the time, let quiet prove what noise can't. Because once your presence carries more weight than your paragraphs, you won't have to announce that your turn has arrived. The room will feel it, and you won't be the loudest person there. You'll be the one everyone orients around. Let's get blunt. Your feelings are real, but they're not reliable. They're data, not destiny. They're weather, not climate. Storms pass, and if you build your identity around whatever cloud happens to be overhead, you'll live a life that changes direction every time the wind does. I learned this the hard way. Someone I trusted once exposed my private fears in a room that mattered to me. They turned my vulnerability into an anecdote and my honesty into ammunition. I felt the heat rise, jaw tight, chest burning, 1,000 arguments sprinting to my tongue. I wanted to correct the record, to make everyone understand, to defend my name like it was a courtroom. And then something inside me said, "Sit still, say nothing, study the room." Silence again, but a different kind. Not the kind that makes others talk. This was the kind that lets you see. In that pause, I watched every face. Who laughed? Who looked down? Who shifted in their seat? Who changed the subject? It was like a thermal camera for character. In 60 seconds, the entire power map rearranged itself right in front of me. And I realized, if I explode, I erase the clarity I just earned. Here's the pivot. Emotional control isn't repression. It's leadership. It's the choice to treat your nervous system as a dashboard, not a driver. Anger lights up. That's a red indicator. Boundary breached. Fear flares. Amber light. Uncertainty ahead. Gather more information. Shame buzzes. Could be a false alarm planted by someone else's expectations. Cross-check with your values. Your emotions are signals. Wise decisions happen when you interpret the signals, not when you let them grab the wheel. So, how do you build this calm under fire? Start with a simple loop you can run in any high-stakes moment. 3 steps. Silent, fast. 1. Name it. 1 word, privately. Anger, envy, fear, embarrassment, urgency. The moment you label a feeling, your prefrontal cortex re-engages. 2. Normalize it. Of course I feel X, given Y. This stops the secondary spiral, the shame about the feeling, and keeps you in analysis, not self-attack. 3. Narrow the next action. Ask, what 2-minute move increases my leverage? Not what makes me feel better, not what performs strength, what increases leverage. That tiny loop separates professionals from reactors. You don't clap back, you collect data. You don't collapse, you record timestamps. You don't flail for witnesses, you build evidence. And later, when the room is cool, you execute. There's a myth that to be authentic, you must display every emotion in real time. No, authenticity isn't radical exposure. It's alignment between your values and your actions over time. Sometimes that means you speak firmly in the moment. Sometimes it means you speak precisely tomorrow. The point is that you decide. Not the adrenaline, not the audience. You. Let's get even more practical. There are 4 emotional traps that keep talented people small. Trap 1. Confusing intensity with importance. High arousal states make everything feel urgent. Urgent things masquerade as important things. Cure. Schedule a delay. Create a personal rule. I don't send major messages in the first 30 minutes of strong emotion. Put the draft in notes. Revisit with a colder mind. Trap 2. Fighting for fairness in the wrong forum. You try to win hearts in public when the decision got made in private. Cure. Move the battle to where consequences live. Contracts, scopes, numbers, deliverables. Let's get this in writing, beats. Please understand me. Trap 3. Taking other people's feelings as verdicts. Someone is irritated by your boundary. You translate that as guilt. Cure. Switch lenses. Their reaction is information about them, their expectations, their habits, their dependencies, not a moral report card on you. Trap 4. Treating mood as truth. You wake up low, so you declare your vision broken. Cure. Protect the machine. Sleep, training, nutrition, solitude, sunlight. High performance starts biologically. You can't out-argue a dehydrated brain. This is also where calm gets misread. Some people will call your composure cold. That's fine. Cold isn't cruel. Cold is clear. Clear means you can separate signal from noise, long-term from short-term, outcome from optics. When everyone else is drowning in feelings, the person who can breathe underwater becomes the default leader. They may outrank you on paper, but in practice, the group follows your nervous system. Here's a field exercise that shifts your identity from reactive to steady. Run it this week. Pre-commit a posture. Before every important conversation, write one line. No matter what happens, I respond at low volume and with one question. That's your anchor. Detect the button. When you feel the surge, silently mark it. Button pressed. This breaks automaticity. Buy time cleanly. If you need a beat, say, I want to answer that well. Give me a moment. Or, let me think about that and get you something thoughtful by 3 p.m. You didn't avoid. You set a boundary around quality. Upgrade the battlefield. Translate emotion into a better terrain. Let's get the numbers. What's the timeline? What's the risk if we delay? Who owns the decision? Feelings are loud. Facts are levers. Another lever, pre-negotiated boundaries. Decide in advance what you do when a line gets crossed, interruption, disrespect, moving goalposts, gossip. Script one sentence for each. Examples. Let's keep this to the scope we agreed on. If scope changes, price changes. I'm happy to continue after we both stop interrupting. I don't discuss people who aren't in the room, loop them in, or drop the topic. Deliver it calmly, once. If behavior repeats, end the interaction or escalate using whatever governance exists, policy, contracts, chain of command. Consequences teach faster than lectures. Now, about reputation. When you refuse to be emotionally steered, something interesting happens. People bring you bigger problems. They will, because crisis seeks competence. You become the person who can absorb shock without transmitting it. That's what executives, clients, and teams instinctively trust, not charisma, not charm. Stability. And that trust converts into opportunities you used to chase. Let me address a fear. If I don't defend myself immediately, won't the wrong story stick? Not if you play a longer game. 2 pillars protect you better than any outburst: documentation and consistent performance. If you document decision, dates, deliverables, and you consistently deliver, you don't have to win every moment. You win the quarter. Over time, noise fades, patterns remain. Your pattern becomes unignorable. You might wonder, do I ever show emotion? Absolutely. But make it a choice and make it strategic. Passion can rally a team. Frustration, used sparingly, can signal stakes. Warmth can disarm. The difference is dosage and direction. You're not bleeding on the table. You're using emotion the way a painter uses contrast, to draw the eye where it matters. Build a personal reset protocol for the days that hit hard. 20 slow breaths, a 5-minute walk outside, water, 10 push-ups, 2 minutes of journaling to dump mental loops, then 1 sentence. What is the smallest next action with the highest leverage? Do that. Momentum is medicine. Here's the ultimate shift. Stop trying to be unhurtable and start being unhandleable. People may still take shots, so. The market may still swing. Friends may still disappoint. But none of that gets to set your pace, your tone, or your next move. You are allowed to feel everything. You are not obligated to obey anything. Hold this line. Feelings are internal weather reports, not executive orders. Interpret the forecast. Pick the route. drive the mission. And when the storm rolls in, remember, you can sit still long enough to see the map. Then you'll do what powerful people do. Move on purpose while everyone else moves on impulse. You don't need to be a robot. You need to be a conductor. Same electricity, different music. I used to believe that openness was the highest form of authenticity. That sharing everything, your struggles, your plans, your insecurities, made you honest, relatable, trustworthy. I thought transparency built connection. I thought vulnerability was strength. It took me years to realize that what I was calling authenticity was just voluntary exposure. And exposure, in the wrong hands, becomes ammunition. Here's the brutal truth. Information is the real currency of power. Not money, not charm, not even intelligence. Information. Who has it, who needs it, who controls it, and who leaks it. Every conversation is a transaction. Every smile hides a data exchange. People are either extracting or revealing, consciously or not. The question is, are you the one gathering intelligence? Or are you handing over your strategy for free? I used to tell everyone everything, how I felt, what I was working on, where I was struggling, who I trusted, what I feared. I called it being real. What it actually was strategic poverty. I was giving away my leverage. My weaknesses became topics of gossip. My dreams became targets for mockery. My fears became playbooks for manipulation. That's when it hit me. Mystery isn't deceit. It's discipline. The most powerful people you know are not mysterious by accident. They are deliberate about what they reveal. You might know their brand, but you'll never know their blueprint. Here's what I learned to do differently. I began treating every personal detail like classified information, not because I had anything to hide, but because I understood the economics of scarcity. What's rare is respected. What's overexposed is ignored. When people don't know how you think, they project competence onto you. When they can't predict your next move, they assume you're calculating. When they don't know your weaknesses, they have to approach you carefully. It's not about manipulation. It's about equilibrium. Because when you overshare, you lose a symmetry. You hand people your internal map while they guard theirs. That's not honesty. That's amateur strategy. The next time someone asks you about your plans, try this. Instead of spilling every detail, speak in outcomes, not processes. Don't say, I'm struggling with my business and trying to pivot to a new model. Say, I'm refining a few things to increase performance. Don't say, I'm terrified about this opportunity. Say, it's stretching me in the right ways. See the difference? You're communicating movement without revealing coordinates. Machiavelli once wrote that, the wise man does at once what the fool does finally. The fool reveals everything under pressure. The wise act before pressure arrives. Control your timing and you control the frame. Now let's flip it. While you become selective about what you share, you must become strategic about what you gather. Pay attention to what people reveal when they think you're not listening. When someone is trying to impress you, they give away their values. When someone is complaining, they give away their fears. When someone is bragging, they give away their insecurities. Listen not just to the story, but to the reason they're telling it. Example, a coworker says, I can't believe management keeps changing priorities. It's so disorganized. Translation, they value stability, they fear chaos, and they'll overreact to uncertainty. That's a lever. A friend says, I hate people who act too confident. Translation, confidence triggers their own insecurity. That's a pressure point. Collect data the way a chess player collects positions, quietly, patiently, without announcing the next move. This isn't about deception. It's about awareness. You're not taking advantage of people. You're understanding them deeply enough to navigate reality with precision. Here's a rule that changed my life. Speak 30%, listen 70%, observe 100%. While everyone else is trying to be interesting, you'll be busy becoming informed. While everyone else is trying to be liked, you'll be busy learning what motivates them. While everyone else is explaining, you'll be calculating patterns. Eventually, people start saying, "You're hard to read." That's the compliment of power. It means they're no longer sure how to play you. Here's something I noticed about genuinely powerful individuals. They rarely explain themselves in detail. When they speak, they simplify. When they decide, they don't justify. When they listen, they rarely reveal reactions. Their restraint makes others overcompensate, and that overcompensation gives them data. If you practice this, your social world will transform. People will compete for your opinion. They'll work harder for your approval. They'll start seeking your input before making decisions, not because you demanded it, but because your mystery created authority. But let me be clear. Don't confuse secrecy with paranoia. This isn't about isolation. It's about filtering. You can be warm, open, even charming, while still being selective. The key is intent. Share stories that build connection, not leverage against you. You can reveal personality without revealing plans. You can share emotion without sharing strategy. You can be transparent about your values while private about your tactics. Start using a 3-tier system for information. 1. Public knowledge. Things anyone can know: your general interests, your worldview, your sense of humor. 2. Selective knowledge. Things that only proven allies or collaborators earn access to: your goals, your methods, your networks. 3. Private knowledge. Things that belong only to you: your vulnerabilities, your fears, your long-term strategic plans. Never confuse the 3. Most people dump everything into Tier 1 because they crave connection. Then they wonder why they feel exposed. Here's another level of control. Learn the art of strategic silence in digital spaces. Stop broadcasting your every emotion online. Let your work speak, not your diary. The more mysterious your process, the more powerful your results will appear. You don't need to lie. You don't need to pretend. You just need to hold something back, not out of fear, but out of respect for your own narrative. Think of it this way. Your story is a movie still in production. Don't leak the raw footage before it's edited. Show the trailer when it's ready to change the world. And when it comes to collecting data, learn this subtle art: mirror and measure. When people talk, match their tone and give them space. The more you listen without judgment, the more they reveal. People are desperate to be seen. Give them that gift, and they'll hand you the blueprint to their psychology. In time, you'll understand something profound. You don't have to manipulate people to influence them. You just have to know what they value, fear, and desire, and structure interactions in a way that aligns those things with your goals. Power, at its core, is simply understanding human motivation more accurately than others do. And the less you say, the more you see. Information creates options. Options create power. Power creates freedom. When you control what others know, you stop being predictable. And when you stop being predictable, you stop being replaceable. It's not about hoarding knowledge, it's about managing it. Deploy it when it matters with precision for impact. Because when the world finally sees your results, they won't be impressed by what you said. They'll be stunned by what you never revealed. For years, I thought being agreeable was the secret to success. Be helpful, be pleasant, be easy to work with. I told myself that if I just stayed likable enough, patient enough, understanding enough, someone would notice. Someone would reward me. someone would finally say, "You deserve more." They never did. Instead, I watched people half as capable, but twice as bold, rise faster, earn more, and command more respect. They weren't necessarily smarter. They were useful. They produced results that were too costly to lose. That's when the truth hit me like a punch. Being nice doesn't make you necessary. Being available doesn't make you valuable. Being easy to replace makes you disposable. Competence is the great equalizer. It's the silent force that makes opinions irrelevant and politics optional. When you become irreplaceably competent, people don't have to like you. They have to respect you. So, what does that actually look like? It's not about working more hours or pleasing more people. It's about mastering one thing so thoroughly that removing you would break the system. The trick isn't to be everywhere. It's to be essential somewhere. Start by identifying the critical nodes in your environment, the skills, insights, or systems everything else depends on. Become the person who knows those better than anyone else. If you work in marketing, learn analytics like a scientist. If you work in design, study psychology until you can predict what will capture attention. If you run your own business, know your cash flow and customer psychology better than anyone alive. People tolerate arrogance. They tolerate boundaries. They even tolerate discomfort. What they don't tolerate is incompetence. And what they can't ignore is mastery. When you're good enough, people start rewriting rules around you. They'll bend deadlines, adjust policies, stretch budgets, because losing you costs more than keeping you satisfied. That's power. And here's the paradox. Once you become this good, you stop chasing validation. You stop fearing opinions. You stop performing for acceptance. Your results speak louder than your explanations ever could. But the climb to that level isn't glamorous. It's brutal. Because to build ruthless competence, you have to abandon the comfort of average. You have to stop saying yes to everything and start saying yes to excellence. You'll work when others rest, not because of hustle culture nonsense, but because the extra hour you spend refining your craft is an investment that compounds forever. You'll study your field until boredom becomes curiosity again. You'll take responsibility for mistakes that weren't fully yours, because ownership is how you learn faster than the rest. Ruthless competence demands that you replace the emotional need to be liked with the strategic need to be trusted. Competent people are stable, consistent, and predictable in their delivery. The world bends toward reliability, because in chaos, predictability is gold. You know what this does? It flips the dynamic. You stop waiting for permission. You stop auditioning for worth. You stop defending your place. You start selecting where to apply your value. People begin to compete for your time instead of you competing for theirs. Here's a mental shift that changes everything. Stop trying to prove you belong. Start proving the system can't function without you. That's how you become untouchable. Let's get practical. Ruthless competence means you know your craft so deeply that you can teach it backwards. You anticipate needs before others articulate them. You simplify chaos into clarity. You find efficiency where others find excuses. You solve problems others haven't even noticed yet. You stop blending in by becoming the only one who truly understands the machinery. Think about it. When something breaks, who gets called first? The person with the nicest attitude, or the one who knows how to fix it without fanfare? Exactly. Machiavelli once wrote, "There is nothing more difficult to handle, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things." And that's exactly what ruthless competence does. It introduces a new order. You stop being replaceable because your expertise changes the way things operate. People will resist you at first. They'll call you obsessive, intense, maybe even arrogant. But soon, they'll realize you're not competing with them. You're competing with yesterday's version of yourself. That's when transformation begins. The meetings that used to drain you start revolving around you. The coworkers who ignored you start deferring to you. The clients who doubted you start quoting you. And the opportunities that used to feel out of reach start chasing you down. This is the shift from employee to asset, from participant to architect. And it's not about status, it's about control. Because when you are the engine, you choose the direction. Competence gives you something no title can freedom. The freedom to walk away. The freedom to say no. The freedom to choose who deserves your time. And once you have that, your confidence stops being a performance. It becomes evidence. People can question your personality. They can criticize your tone. They can dislike your boundaries. But they cannot argue with your results. And here's where it gets powerful. Ruthless competence isn't limited to your career. It bleeds into everything: relationships, fitness, communication, even self-respect. If you decide to become excellent at being calm, no one can shake you. If you decide to become excellent at execution, no one can outwork you. If you decide to become excellent at self-mastery, no one can manipulate you. Competence is peace disguised as skill. So the next time you start worrying about being liked, remember this. Likability fades the moment you say no, but value survives every rejection. If you are the best at what you do, people will tolerate your standards. If you are merely convenient, they'll replace you the moment you stop being easy. Your job is to make replacement a risk they can't afford. Because the world doesn't reward those who try hardest. It rewards those who perform best. And performance, at its core, is just consistent competence applied with precision. When you master that, you'll no longer need to chase respect. Respect will chase you. You won't need to shout. You won't need to prove. You won't need to explain. Your silence will do all the talking. Your results will do all the convincing. Your value will become your loudest argument. And when people finally realize they can't replace you without losing everything that works, you'll understand what real power feels like. Let's talk about the final shift, the one that separates people who dream from those who dominate. Strategic ruthlessness. Most people flinch when they hear that word ruthless. They imagine cruelty, manipulation, betrayal. But real ruthlessness isn't about hurting others. It's about refusing to hurt yourself by saying yes to the wrong people, wrong habits, and wrong environments. Strategic ruthlessness is discipline disguised as detachment. It's prioritizing long-term evolution over short-term comfort. It's cutting off what drains you, even when it still feels familiar. I learned this when I had to do something that ripped me apart. I had to fire my best friend from my life. We'd built everything together: ideas, dreams, plans. But somewhere along the way, our trajectories split. I was building. They were complaining. I was learning. They were repeating. Every conversation became an emotional tax. Every visit left me lighter in the wallet and heavier in the chest. I told myself it was loyalty. That's what good people do, right? Stay loyal, stick around, be there. But one day I realized loyalty to stagnation is betrayal of growth. And I made the cut. It wasn't cold. It was clarity. Strategic ruthlessness doesn't mean cruelty. It means refusing to compromise your mission for other people's comfort. It means saying no without apology. It means letting some people misinterpret your silence as arrogance, your distance as indifference, your ambition as selfishness, because you know what you're building is worth misunderstanding. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't grow and stay universally liked. You can't evolve and keep everyone's approval. The version of you that everyone loves is usually the version of you that costs you the most. Every person who achieves something exceptional has a point in their story where they stopped asking for permission. They stopped explaining, negotiating, and waiting for someone else to catch up. And that's what you need to do now. Machiavelli once wrote, "A prince cannot use the virtue of liberality without harm to himself. He should not mind being called miserly. In time, his discipline will make him stronger." Translated into modern terms, be stingy with your energy. Protect your time like treasure. Every yes you give is a withdrawal from your power. Every no you give is a deposit into your future. Because power doesn't come from how much you give. It comes from how precisely you give it. Let's get practical. Strategic ruthlessness means you stop explaining your boundaries. You state them once, calmly. You stop rescuing people from the consequences of their own inaction. You stop performing empathy for those who weaponize your compassion. You stop chasing people who left when you started growing. You stop apologizing for standards that make others uncomfortable. It's not cold, it's mature. You are no longer trying to prove you have a good heart. You're proving you have a strong spine. Because at some point, you realize being kind to everyone often means being cruel to yourself. And being selectively ruthless is the only way to stay kind where it actually counts. And yes, some people will call you different. They'll say you've changed. They'll whisper that you're distant, detached, difficult. That's fine. Growth is always misunderstood by those who choose comfort over courage. When you stop playing the approval game, you start seeing the real players, the ones who respect focus, excellence, and boundaries. These are the people who will walk beside you in silence, not guilt-trip you for walking ahead. And once you have this discipline, you'll start building something far more powerful than independence. You'll build systems. Because freedom isn't a mood, it's a structure. Real freedom is waking up knowing your life doesn't collapse if one person leaves, one job ends, or one door closes. Real freedom is having systems, emotional, financial, and strategic, that protect your power. When you build systems instead of dependencies, you stop living at the mercy of other people's moods. You stop relying on one paycheck, one partner, one source of validation. You stop fearing loss because you've built replacements before you needed them. That's not selfishness. That's sovereignty. When you operate from systems, you collaborate from choice, not need. You give freely, not fearfully. You walk away gracefully, not bitterly. Systems create options. Options create leverage. Leverage creates peace. That's why ruthless people sleep better. Not because they care less, but because they've designed lives where chaos can't reach them. And when you combine silence, emotional control, information mastery, and ruthless competence, you stop asking the world to see your worth. You start showing it through the life you've engineered. You become the calm in every storm, the mystery in every room, the force that doesn't need attention to command it. And then you realize you were never behind. You were just buried under layers of politeness, fear, and permission-seeking that kept you small. But not anymore. From now on, you don't need to explain your evolution. You don't need to broadcast your growth. You don't need to defend your ambition. People will feel it when you enter the room. They'll sense it in your silence. They'll see it in how you carry yourself steady, deliberate, unbothered. Because real power never announces itself. It just changes the temperature. You've outgrown the need for permission. You've outgrown the need for validation. You've outgrown the need for understanding. Now you move with quiet certainty, not to prove anything, but to express what was always there. So here's your line in the sand. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't need anyone's approval. You don't wait for opportunity. You build it. Say it once. I'm no longer asking. I'm choosing. Because the world doesn't give power to the polite. It gives it to the precise, the disciplined, the quietly ruthless. And the next time you walk into a room, remember this. You don't need to be the loudest. You just need to be the one they can't forget in silence. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are simply waiting for the moment you stopped asking. That moment is now.